Welcome to the fourth chapter of the book of Mark. If you hear a little noise in the background that sounds like rain hitting against the window, well, that's exactly what it is. We're going through a storm right now, and my monitor and camera, everything is right fairly close to the window, so I hope you'll pardon that. It begins in chapter 4, the parable of the sower. Verse 1, it says, Ke palin irksanto didaskin para tin thalasan. And again he began to teach by the sea. Ke sinik the prosafton oklos polis, and was gathered together to him a great multitude. Oste afton emvanta is to plion, so that he, having stepped into the boat, kathiste in te thalasi, sat down in the sea. Now here's another figure of speech. He didn't sit in the sea, sat down in the boat which was in the sea. Ke paso oklos pros tin thalasan epi tis gis in. And all the multitude close to the sea were upon the ground. So here we see this site that's on the Sea of Galilee, and Jesus is in this boat a few feet out, and then there's a multitude of people, maybe thousands, and they were sitting on the ground. Verse 2, Ke edidasken aftus in paravoles pola, and he taught them in parables many things. Could be many, or taught them in many parables. The parables, as we mentioned, sometimes can be just a short explanation that tries to get a point across. That's not a normal way of explaining it. In other places, it can be a story of something going on. Ke elegant aftis enti didahi aftu, and he said to them in his teaching. Verse 3, Akuate, hearken. Acoustics, the derivative there for that word. Idhu, exilthen o spiron to spire, went forth the one sowing to sow. Spiron, a spire, a little plant that comes out of the ground. Verse 4, Ke ageneto ento spearing, and it came to pass in the sowing, omen epise para tin odon. Some seed fell by the way, the odon. Ke iltha ta petina tu oranu, ke katephagan afto. And the birds of the heaven came and devoured it. The road was probably hard, and these seeds were laying on top. And the birds saw the seed laying on top. It wasn't able to go get any earth and root down into it, and they devoured it right away. Verse 5, Alo, they episen epi to petrodhes, and others fell upon the rocky place. Petrodhes is the petro, a pet is a rock, a rocky place. Opu uk ihe gin polin, where it did not have much earth or ground. Ke evtheos exanetile, and immediately it rose up. So now we have other seeds in the rocky place. Diatomi echin vathos gis, because of the not having a depth of earth. In verse 6, Iliu they anatilantes, and the sun having risen, ekav matisti, it was scorched. Ke diato mi echin reason exiranti, and because of the not having root, it was dried up. Iliu, helium, is a derivative for the sun in Greek. Rhizome, roots. Rhizome is a English word for the root system. Ke aulo epison is tas akanthas, and others fell into the thorns. Ke anavison e akanthe, and The thorns ascended, Ke sinep nixan avto, and choked it. Ke karpon uk edoke, and it did not give fruit. So it fell among these thorns, grew up, but the thorns were all around it. I have tons of blackberry in front of my house, and things grow up, flower in it, but yet it's completely covered by the blackberries. It choked it. It did not give its fruit. Karpon, carpiform, fruit-bearing tree. It's a derivative. Ke alo epison is tigin tin kalin, and other fell into the good earth. Ke evidhu karpon anavenon ta, ke avxanon ta, and gave fruit, ascending and growing. An oxen is a growth hormone, a derivative for this avxanonta. Ke epheron in triaconta, and one bore 30. Ke en exiconta, and 160. Ke en ekaton, and 100. And it could have been different trees. Some bore more than others. Verse 9. Ke elegan aftis, and he said to them, O echon ota akuin akueto, the one having ears to hear, let him hear. The imperative. Verse 10. Ote they ageneto katamonas erotisan afton, and when he was alone they asked him, E peri afton sintis dodeka, the ones around him with the 12. Teen paravolin, the parable. Or they didn't ask him the parable, they asked what the parable meant, another figure of speech. Verse 11. Ke elegan avtis, and he said to them, Emi dedote genone to mysterion tis vasilias tu theou. To you it has been given to know the mystery. There is a direct transliteration into English, mysterion, a mystery. It's a Greek word. Of the basilias, the kingdom, and basilica, basil plant, all have to do with the royalty or kingdom, of theou, of God. The mystery of the kingdom of God. It's not the democracy of God, but the kingdom of God. Akinis they, tis exo, but to the ones outside, in paravoles, tapanta ginete. All things happen in parables. Now, we know here when he's saying to you, even though they were asking him, the ones around, it's given to us today, that whoever is reading this, because we are now joining with the 12, and he gives answers to what this means. But to the ones outside, all things happen in parables. So the parables to the people that really, I'm not exactly sure, would say if they don't really want to know, or they're like the scribes and the Pharisees just coming there to find fault or to see them slip and trip up, they don't understand it. It just goes right over their heads. But it goes over our heads too sometimes. Some of these parables are hard to decipher exactly what he's talking about. And so, but definitely the ones outside are set apart here. Verse 12. Ina vlepontes vleposi, that in seeing they should see. Ke mi idosi, and not know. Ke akuontes akuso. Ke mi siniosi, and in hearing they should hear and not perceive. Mipote epistrepsosi, lest at any time they should turn. Ke aphethi avtis ta amartimata, and their sins should be forgiven them. There's a lot in that little verse. The ones that can hear but don't really take it in, they don't tune in to the right station. It's like listening to a radio with just a bunch of static. Sit there all day and listen to radio static. Well, you're not tuned in to the station. And it's the same, he's sort of saying, as if you're not really tuned in to him. You're hearing it, but you're not perceiving. But then, lest at any time they should turn, and their sins should be forgiven them. So the understanding of one's sins is a primary concern.